call to order for the Borough Council regular meeting, May 18th, 2022. We do the roll call.
President Ferguson.
Here.
Vice President Gerard.
Here.
Councilmember Fagan.
Here.
Councilmember Presser.
Here.
Councilmember Stevens.
Here.
Mayor Gerard.
Here.
Manager Snyder.
Here.
Solicitor Harper.
Here.
And before you do the pledge of allegiance, if everyone can talk to their mics, we've got some feedback from the public that it's kind of hard to hear some things. So as long as we're talking to the mics, I think that'll help the video recording great. So right now, on our pledge of allegiance, please stand. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we have our invocation by Councilor Stevens.
Almighty God, we thank you for the blessing of this day and this opportunity to serve our community. We ask that you would guide us and give us wisdom in all that we do on this behalf. In Jesus' name, amen.
All right, number one, approval of the meeting agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda for May 18th?
Second.
Motion from Councilor Stevens, second from Councilor Presser. Any changes or amendments to the agenda for tonight? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. Motion passes. All right, motion, or item number two, approval of minutes. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from April 6, 2022, our workshop meeting, and April 20, 2022, the regular meeting?
I'll make a motion. I'll second.
We got a motion from Councilor Gerard, a second from Councilor Fagan. Any changes or amendments to the meeting minutes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. All right, item number three, public input. Anyone from the public, if you would like to have some input, we please ask you to take the podium up front, speak into the microphone. That way we can make sure we get the audio recording. And then please state your name and address and the reason for your addressing council tonight. Everyone in the audience smiles when I say. All right, if there's no public input, we'll go to announcements. Andrew?
Next council meeting is June 15th. That's the workshop regular meeting at 7:30 p.m. here in council chambers. BRAC is scheduled to meet Wednesday, May 25th at 8 a.m. here in council chambers. The planning commission is scheduled to meet Monday, June 6th at 7 p.m. here in council chambers. The Hatfield Museum Historical Society is scheduled to meet on Tuesday, May 31st at 7 p.m. at the Hatfield Volunteer Fire Company, and the borough offices will be closed Monday, May 30th in observance of the Memorial Day holiday.
It's on the agenda because we finalize the Memorial Day. What time we need to be there in that process?
So I've been in communication with our representatives for the Memorial Day Parade today, sent them an email asking for some logistics along with the police department. So when I hear back, I will forward that information, arrival time, and we are checking on the shirts and everything as well.
Okay.
We do have a truck lined up, candy and everything to be provided for those attending.
Okay, thank you. Any other announcements? If not, we'll go to item 5, the conditional use hearing for Stephen Cole at 390 West Vine Street. And if I may add, for Solicitor Harper, we did advertise it in the papers. So.
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Would you like me to run the meeting, the hearing?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. All right, Mr. Cole's here. Can you come up and use the mic so that we can be sensitive to people who are not here in person? And I'm going to ask Kim Bergner, our court reporter, to swear you in. So everything you said will be under oath tonight. Is the mic on?
I believe so.
Yes, it is. Hey, Kim, could you swear him in?
You raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
State your name and spell your first and last name.
Stephen Cole, STEPHEN, C-O-L-E.
Okay, before we start, I'm going to mark a few exhibits, just so you know what Borough Council has in front of them. A1 is a copy of your application. And that includes a letter of intent for conditional use addressed to whom it may concern, that should be in your packets, okay? A2 is a hand-drawn sketch with showing dimensions of the property and where he proposes to put the, we'll call it oversized, accessory building.
It's proportionally sized.
Right, I'm just saying oversized in terms of the zoning ordinance, okay, you know, so. And A3 is a copy of the deed showing that Stephen Cole is the owner of the property and has standing to make this request. So when Borough Council hears a conditional use hearing, they know that there is an ordinance that requires certain dimensions and certain characteristics of a residential accessory building. And they want to hear from you why you need a larger building and a taller building and what you are going to use the building for, so that they can make sure that you're using a residential it's a residential accessory use, and why you need a bigger building than the code otherwise authorizes. If there were any other parties, are there any other parties to this application? If not, after your testimony is done, and after Borough Council asks you whatever questions they may have, they will also give the members of the public a chance to comment for or against your application. And then we will close the hearing, okay? So I'm going to turn it over to you, and if you would please explain, why you're here tonight and what you're going to use the building for, okay?
When I moved into the property about 4 years ago, I inherited two 12 by 24 sheds and a roughly 14 by 20 garage. I'm looking to consolidate some of those, get rid of one of the sheds, and tear the existing garage down because it has foundation issues. So instead of repairing that, I'm looking to consolidate, tear it down, basically build just a bigger garage / woodworking shop. Additionally, with the second story, will be some additional storage, maybe an arts and crafts room for the wife. So that's what I'm looking to do. Basically, get rid of one of my sheds, get rid of the existing garage, and just have a place to put all the bigger, oversized, lawnmower, snow blower, somewhere to put it.
Right, so the things you'll be storing in there will be lawnmowers, snow blowers, everything else?
Yes, a 2-car garage plus a tiny little hobbyist workshop area, nothing industrial or commercial. And then the second story will basically be a half-story loft. It won't be running the full length of the second story. Looking to do about 20 by 60 for the garage itself. The second story loft will be 20 by 30. Again, just for additional storage up there, Christmas stuff, arts and crafts for the wife.
And you're not going to use the second floor for a separate dwelling unit?
No.
Okay. Did you explore the possibility of building a shed in accordance with the borough ordinance?
I did, but I've always heard, go bigger than you ever think you'll need, and you'll find things to fill it with. So looking to do that. If this gets rejected, I'll cut back a little bit, but we'll go from there.
Right. Have you talked to any of your neighbors about your plans?
I have the 3 surrounding, both on each side and the one directly behind.
And are you planning any landscaping around the garage?
Not immediately. There will be a 2-foot barrier around the outside. I say barrier will be basically crushed stone for the foundation of the garage itself. Outside of that, I'm not looking to do any landscaping at this time.
And there are setbacks for residential accessory buildings, and do you intend to comply with the setback?
Yes, even more so. I believe the setback has to be 8 feet. I'm looking to go 10 feet from the side lot, and it will be at least 100 feet from the back lot.
Okay, that would be good. What questions does Borough Council have of the applicant? Or the mayor? The mayor can participate as well. Sorry.
Just real quick, the sketch that was provided only shows 8 feet from the property line that is on the south side, I think it is.
Once I get final approval on this, I will get an actual surveyor to come out and figure out exactly what the line is, because it's actually, the property line goes through some trees. So once I figure that out, it'll be at least 8, at least 8, if not more.
The exterior of the building, is that going to be covered with vinyl siding or something equivalent to?
Corrugated metal?
Yes.
It will be corrugated metal, yes. The roof and the siding will both be metal.
And you said that you would talk to your neighbors about this. Did you get anything in writing from this?
Nothing ready yet, I most certainly can do so.
Well, my only concern would be, is not so much the size, the length, width, but the height. Especially being so close to neighbors. I'm actually looking at an aerial view of the property now. And, you know, there's not a lot of width to your property between you and the neighbors. And so that would be my concern. There's no fence or anything there, so they're gonna have a full-on view of the building, and now it's also gonna be 25 feet tall.
So the finish, after I got the plan, I submitted this before I had my submitted plan. The final had to be 22 feet to the peak of the roof. But to be honest, talking with those neighbors, I'm putting it way further back than basically where my back of the house is. I'm putting it a lot further back because it's so big. It's all wooded and it's not even usable land to my left neighbor. But again, I can get approval and ready.
Oh, I'm
So I
sorry.
was gonna say, your lot, how big is your lot? It's unusual, I think.
It's 0.84 acres. I don't know the exact dimensions of the width by the length.
But you have plenty of space that he can comply with the setback requirements, actually.
Yeah, the setback, I don't think he was questioning about was the height.
Yeah, because when you look at the sketch, it says 150 feet, and the lot is long, right? It's very
Correct.
long, so it's narrow but long, which
Correct.
is kind of not unusual in properties on Vine Street. And so it looks like from the back lot, you've got lots of space, but it's really that side lot to the neighbor.
The sidewalk, and also requested that house just went to settlement and sold on Monday, so I do not know the current owners. This was previous to them selling the residence that I asked them about it. But again, I can ask, I don't think it's gonna be an issue again, because that part of the land, part of the yard where I'm putting it is all wooded. It's not even a really usable yard back there, there's right air pipes back there.
The ordinance does talk in terms of landscape. Have you thought about putting any landscaping between that building and your neighbor?
Yeah, good. Again, there's trees that go there. Again, once I get a survey, I'll figure out exactly where the property line is, but there's no real definitive end to where the property line divides because of that tree line.
Yeah, from looking at the aerial view, there's a lot of trees in your neighbor's yard. Yeah, there is. But at the same time, like I said, if they ever wanted to cut that down, you know, and use the space differently, there would be obviously a visual difference. So I think the landscaping is not a bad idea. It would help hide it, especially given the size. So my only reservation is really the size. So I can understand the length and width because like you want a two-car garage and more space. For me, it's more about the height and how it becomes visible to all the neighbors in the area. That'd be my concern. So is it possible if you were to possibly reconsider to maybe make it even bigger length and width and cut it and reduce the height so you can get some additional space that you want, storage space?
I could, that make it kind of tricky because again, it's a whole second story, not really. If I were to cut back and just get rid of that second story, it'd be within the 15-foot compliance that's allowed by ordinance. And that's, yes, I could do so, but it would not be my desire to do so because the full second story gives me the added height I would like. I can do whatever you guys want me to do.
Is it gonna be an A-frame roof or is it gonna be?
This would be a full one,
What's that?
full one,
Full one?
full, yeah. So it's 18 feet to the interior of the wall and then an additional 4 feet to the peak of the roof.
Okay.
Does anybody else on the council have questions? I'm going to ask if there's anybody in the audience who has a question or a comment about this application.
Yeah, I have just a couple of questions.
All right, hold on for a second. We're going to need you to come up to the microphone. Because I think you heard the chairman say that we had some issues with people not being able to hear you. So. Okay, go ahead, state your name.
My name is Russell Snyder, with 24 South Wayne Avenue. I think you know who I am, I've been here before. I looked at the property yesterday, okay? Because I'm a little concerned about this whole town. A lot of these structures are put up. I have one a couple doors away. It was just a shack, and now somebody's living in it. This is what happens in this town. And I'm just concerned when you're putting up a building this big, particularly 2 stories. I don't think it's necessary to go with these kind of structures Because what's gonna happen later? This gentleman could sell it, could become a resident.
The gentleman has not requested that this be a residential accessory unit other than to be an accessory to an existing residence. So the point you're making is well taken. He's promised not to use it as a dwelling unit, and Borough Council can include that in the conditions of approval if you go that route.
And what is sold? Is that still all true?
Yes,
Okay.
Zoning
Are you
runs
gonna
with the
uphold
land.
that? I just want to make one comment. The structure next to me was a shack, okay? And it was turned into a residence without a permit, was completely rebuilt. And it doesn't meet any standards. But that's what happens in this town. And I'm just afraid for the neighbors to put up a structure like this and then have to live next to it, you know? And he says the neighbor owns the property next door, didn't move in. They can't comment on it. They're the ones going to be stuck with the building. It's not the owner that lives in there, that owns the property now. These are kind of structures that go up in this town. How many structures of apartments go behind houses? That was done years ago. Every street has one of those.
Okay, so with respect to structures on other streets or
I-
your issue that one of them has been turned into a dwelling unit allegedly illegally, what you should do is call our code officer and tell him the address so that he can go out and look.
Oh, look, it's been there for quite a few years. I complained about it when it was done. I got nowhere, okay? And I'm only, I get nowhere now,
All
because
right,
nothing's ever done.
but what we are doing now is dealing with this gentleman's conditional use
I
application.
understand that, but what I'm trying to point out is what happens in this borough. The conditions that happened years ago, and we're living with these conditions now. So when these things go now like this, somebody else is gonna have to live with this next door, okay?
Hey, thank you. I think Borough Council understands that. Do you have any other comments regarding this application?
No.
Thank you. Does anyone else have comments or questions regarding this application? Seeing none, I think we can close the hearing and move on.
All right.
I will tell the applicant you can stay. Technically, Borough Council has 45 days to make a decision. They can make a decision tonight. They're not obligated to, they may. If you want to stay and see if they do, that's fine. Otherwise, you'll be notified one way or the other by the borough manager tomorrow, or when a decision gets made, okay?
And, borough manager, can we get with the, Matt to see, go out and take a look at the property next to Mr. Snyder's and see if it's being used properly, if it has a permit for a residential use. So take care of that, take a look at it.
Okay, it's 18 South Wayne Avenue. It has its own number. You know where it's at.
All right, item 6, new business. We'll look at the first conditional use hearing for the decision of Patrick Sports Bar and Grill.
I did give you a draft decision. I hope you've all had a chance to review it. It basically tracks what the gentleman said at his hearing. If it's got everything you need in other words, it says live entertainment Saturdays, 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. Bands will be located right on their property. Live entertainment from April 15th to November 15th. The dining goes on all year round. They already have outdoor dining that's permitted now by right. And the other condition is that he'll operate it in accordance with the exhibits and testimony entered into evidence at the hearing. So those are basically the conditions that I put in the decision because I thought that's what you wanted. Does anybody have any other conditions on Hat-Tricks? Okay, then that's on for action later tonight if there are no changes needed for this.
Item B, the monthly year-to-date report.
The monthly year-to-date report was included in your packets this evening. As I mentioned at the workshop meeting, it was not in the packet just for the timing of the meetings. We'll get back to putting them in the workshop, regular meeting packets for the summer and continue on through the fall. This is just a report, as I've stated in the past, that Diane and I are working on, just so you can see the revenues versus expenses month to month versus what we have budgeted.
Any questions regarding that? Just still good summary on it. All right, item C, resolution 2022-12, recognize National EMS Week.
Resolution 2022-12 will be recognizing National EMS Week. It is the week actually we are currently in, May 15th through May 21st. This is just a resolution honoring and recognizing National EMS Week. We are, as the North Penn managers, we have decided all to put this in front of our boards, and we are working with Shane Mueller, the chief of the Lansdale BMSC, to present the resolutions that all the North Penn managers who are served by the Lansdale BMSC, where their boards adopt the resolution, we will present it to the Lansdale BMSC. So for consideration as action this evening.
All right, any other comments regarding new business? All right, we'll go to item 7, old business, resolution 2022-10, Serco Hatfield Rubber's 60 years of business in the borough. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry,
Yeah, I was
thank you,
like,
council students.
I think I skipped that, but you guys didn't skip
You know,
it.
I gotta have one mistake at least.
No, it was in my packet backwards too. That's my fault. I was like,
We're still on item 6, new business. So item D, 2022 road grade resurfacing project award recognition.
So, the 2022 roadway resurfacing project came in, to bid at $135,992. The lowest bid was Blooming Glen Contractors. We are asking to award this, bid this evening so we can, move forward with the 2022 paving project. Just to let you know, bring to your attention that, including ADA, which is also gonna come out of our liquid fuels and capital projects, we are gonna be under budget for ADA and paving, both coming out of liquid fuels and capital projects. And also wanted specifically to bring your attention to some items as part of the roadway resurfacing project on Tom Menson Avenue. They roughly total about $15,000. This was damage that was done during Ida. If you've driven down Tom Menson Avenue, right when you get towards Edgewood, it kind of ruffles a little bit. We are working with FEMA to actually include this as part of the bid process and get reimbursed for that full amount. So that $15,000 will come out of this total overall bid. We will pay it upfront and FEMA will reimburse us 90%, and then the state will reimburse us the remaining 10%. So that $15,000 will end up washing itself out when we get the reimbursements from FEMA. And Katie and Steve are working on that currently. We're going through the process of submitting all the paperwork. Once this is approved, that we're gonna go with Blooming Glen, we can send them over these documents as well, so they understand, how much we're looking to get back for those improvements.
Yeah, most council wasn't here when that happened. If I remember correctly, it was the water that got underneath and actually lifted the asphalt up. So we settled, that's what we got that bumpy surface on. So,
Jamie, that, work that needs to be done, is there an estimate just for that one section, what it would, you said it would be included in total cost, you know, if there was some sort of an estimate around that one section, what the cost would be?
For Tom Menson Avenue, $15,000, $15,250. On part of there, I had highlighted, 2,100, 7,500, 3,100, 2,500. That's coming out, that's just designated for Tom Menson Avenue. So we've included it as part of the paving because we would get a cheaper price. They said it was fine, but when we go to submit the paperwork, they'll kind of invoice us that separately so we can get that reimbursement.
Any other questions? All right. So now we'll go to item 7, old business. Resolution 2022-10, Serco Hatfield Rubber, 60 years of business in the borough.
This resolution is on for consideration this evening as an action item to honor and recognize Serco or Hatfield Rubber for their 60 years of business in Hatfield Borough. If this resolution is adopted this evening, Katie is in contact with Serco, and we are going to invite them to attend the June 15th workshop regular meeting, so council can present them with this resolution to honor their years of business in Hatfield Borough.
Councilor Stevens, yeah, you want to do it? All right, if there's no other questions, we'll go ahead and read the resolution 2022-11, tax certification fee.
Resolution 2022-11 addresses tax certification fees. As we spoke about in the workshop meeting, this was brought to us by our current tax collector, Mohammed Haig, who is currently looking to set or has requested that the tax certification fees be a flat $30 instead of what they currently are, which is $20 and $5 for each additional year to max out at $30. This was in our ordinance, but can be changed by resolution and just sets the tax certification fee at a flat $30. And is on for consideration as an action item.
Any questions? All right, we'll go to item C, the virtual public meeting update.
At the workshop meeting, Vice President Gerard had brought to our attention the interest in the possibility of live streaming our public meetings. We had a conversation about that. We have heard from our constituents that that's what they would like to see. We talked about some different options. Katie and I have spent the past week and a half, 2 weeks since the past meeting, kind of going through our system, seeing what we can do. Tonight, currently, we're testing it out. So back on the screen back there, we are on live on Zoom, just between Katie and myself, just as a resident would be joining Zoom. We're working on the recording as we have had comments that hearing the public has just been a little bit difficult. So we're trying to make those adjustments before we would allow live streaming. Right now, where we're at in the process is if we want to allow live streaming, we can do it with the equipment that we have, except currently the computer that Katie has is really old and it needs to be updated. It can work, but if she unplugs or goes somewhere else, she can't go anywhere else. We need updated software to be added to that. It can't be right now. So we're kind of working with what we have. We can do live stream. I would suggest if we were going to look into live streaming permanently, that you consider a computer and consider a camera for better quality and better sound. And that capability would also allow you to have live streaming with interaction in the future. And what I mean for that is if you're going to need a program on the computer, so when people join on Zoom, if that's how we're going to host the meetings, that you can hear them talking during public comment, which will come through these speakers. And the program needs to come on a computer that computer just can't hold the program. We're working with R&R Data who put the system in. When the system was put in, it was not built for that. So it wasn't built for live streaming meetings because, let's face it, COVID didn't exist, nobody knew it was going to come, and nobody had live stream meetings. So my suggestion would be to council, if you are interested in it, and Katie and I will continue to do research, is test it out on June 15th. If you want to move forward, we can do a live stream on June 15th with the equipment that we have, get quotes for an updated computer, get quotes for an updated camera. We will also meet with R&R, which we are scheduled to meet with them last week, but he's out of town on emergency business. And we had to reschedule the meeting. He'll talk about upgrades to the sound system. We can get you a price quote for that. That eventually, if maybe you want to do that this year, or you want to wait till the strategic planning meeting and maybe do budget that for next year to integrate that. But I think taking a step forward and at least allowing live stream with the equipment we have, pending on how it turns out tonight, I think is doable. Katie's worked extremely hard, almost up here every day, playing around with this system, trying to get it to work. And I think we're there. I think it's going to need tweaking, but I'm confident that we can do it. And I think our residents and business owners who want to be able to watch the meeting live at home will be happy with what they get. I would just note that we will, again, put out, if we want to do the live stream, questions have to be submitted to the borough office by 4 p.m. in meeting night. Any questions that are submitted, I will surely print out, hand them to, President Ferguson. He can read them out loud during public comment and they will be addressed. Unfortunately, there'll just be no interaction between the resident and them, but they can surely watch online. So that's kind of where we are. I know personally, outside of work, I'm currently working on, in another organization that I serve in. We are going through a live stream update, and right now we're about $5,600. They have a sound system, they have a sound board. That's just the update that's we're looking at. I had asked the gentleman that's doing a quote for them if he'd be interested in coming in and doing a quote for us to kind of see where we are to get some quotes. I don't think it hurts to get some numbers, just because R&R put the system in, we might be able to make some adjustments at a more reasonable rate.
I'd like to make a suggestion that possibly, if we're going to go ahead, for the full-blown system, we would maybe do this in phases and get some feedback from people. My initial thought is to start it out, with a live stream, people submitting their questions and doing everything except for the live question answer, and see where it goes from there. My main concern too with that is the consideration of the cost involved, and we really didn't plan for the full amount. So maybe we do part of it this year, take a look and see how it goes, get input from the public and everybody else. And then if we think it's feasible, include that in the budget for next year and then proceed. Also, I would check to see if the cost, if we do it in phases, the cost is going to be more because people have to come back to do something, or it would be the same cost when, if we decided to do the whole thing for one. So just throw that out there.
Yeah, I fully believe with the equipment that we have right now, we can live stream the June 15th meeting. There will be no interaction. That means no public comment over the computer. And then Katie and I will get quotes and we will submit them to you. And I talked about, we can have them on during the strategic planning meeting, which is council's plan of what they want to budget for in 2023. That's kind of the kickoff meeting to when we have our pipeline dream ideas of what I can talk to the representatives and ask them for if we would a quote up front, what it would be to do everything, and if we split that up, or what that would look like, the pricing change. I can put that in part of our conversation.
And also, what I would suggest too is putting, I don't know, maybe on Facebook or through the Borough Informer or some sort of a survey, not now, but maybe 3-4 months down the road, maybe it's the fall. We do this for a few months and then solicit feedback from constituents in the borough and see what their ideas, do they like it, don't they like it, are they satisfied with just doing that before we, maybe go full blast with everything with the live stream.
Yeah, we can, I know we'll have a fall edition of the Informer coming out. We can also do easy online surveys or doodle polls that we can make more interactive, that we can get feedback almost instantly. Hey, we've been doing this now for 3 months. What's your feedback? Have you participated? Do you want it more interactive? We can open that up for conversation and kind of get the feedback before we decide to make a financial obligation in 2023.
Let's look at also the next budget, labor and finance meeting. Let's look at what we have for that kind of expenditure, because I thought we put some money in there for that anticipation. So let's see what we've got versus what you want to spend this year on it, and see if maybe we pull it into some of this year's spend.
Yeah, I think at least this year, you're going to need some type of, it doesn't have to be major, but a computer to run it, because at the bare minimum, I currently use my camera from back there from my desk to plug up your key drinks or her laptop up and computer, or if that computer doesn't work, it's not plugged in. I think that's the minimum this year, and I know they're budgeted funds for computer updates and some software updates. When we have a budget finance and labor meeting, I can get some more numbers together for you guys to look at.
So maybe if I'm wrong, we're talking about we need a computer.
Yes.
And the computer will have the camera too, or has this computer for what Kate will work on here, right? Okay.
Yeah, so the computer she's currently using, we have 2 in here. This is an old one that we found in the food department that was from Brad Bollinger worked here when we were in 401, old 401, or we went to the temporary spaces. But the more updated one is in the back right now that's hosting, that would be live. It's the camera that's on it is just a 360 camera. I think it was like $42 on Amazon. That's currently the camera from my computer downstairs, because my computer camera broke. and we don't have one, and I didn't want to give up a new computer, and I thought it was a lot cheaper to just buy a $40 camera off Amazon than purchase a new laptop that the borough had to put an expense up for. So I think maybe new computer, nothing high tech or like pretty simple, get some quotes. We can get some quotes from our IT. They do provide that. Little pricey rather than going to a Best Buy might be better. We can certainly look into that. And then the $45 to $50 camera. That would go with it. That just allows the angles for the different, for the room and allow speakers are on the side, those things.
Okay.
That would be the bare minimum.
Right. Right,
Yes.
if you want to get fancier.
Yes,
fancier,
With the
we-
system and incorporating it all, Bluetooth and that, sure, that comes at an added expense. Bare minimum, I think we can do it with what we have in hand with combination of that.
Okay, so then Greg McMorro, the only thing really then would be the audio, we'd have to hook into this, and that's where we're probably gonna get more expensive than a computer or anything else. So-
Correct, yeah. I think what they might suggest is having, with the audio, they might suggest, we have the security cameras here, they might suggest a camera just for a live stream camera.
Mhm.
So maybe try to upsell you a little bit. I don't really know if that's necessarily needed. I think we'll have what we have here. We can cut some costs that way if we just go with the audio for live stream. That's really the big thing, is how do you hear people that are participating on Zoom? Putting a microphone, we've had that interaction before.
Yeah, I think your guys' approach is good, because we can start out a little bit, start with camera there, if we find it's not effective, or we wanna have a different system that zooms in on people when they're speaking, we can figure that out in later budgets, and then add that tech in later, so. Yeah, I think it's a good place to start, so, cool. All right, if there's no other old business, we'll get to our action items. Item A, motion to consider resolution 2022-10, Serco/Hatfield Rubber, 60 years of business in the borough. Can I get a motion?
I'll move to adopt that resolution.
I got a motion from Councilor Stevens, second from Councilor Pressler. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Item B, motion to consider resolution 2022-11, tax certification fees. This is the commonality of one fee across the board.
So moved.
I'll second.
I got a motion from Councilor Stevens, second from Councilor Gerard. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Item C, motion to consider resolution 2022-12, recognize the National EMS Week.
I'll second.
I have a motion from Councilor Pressler, second from Councilor Fagan. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None, motion carries. All right, motion D, or item D, motion to consider approval or approving the conditional use decision for Patrick Sports Bar and Grill, 64 East Lincoln Avenue.
Second.
I got a motion from Councilor Pressler, second from Councilor Stevens. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None, the motion carries. Item E is motion to consider granting or denying conditional use for Stephen Cole at 390 West Vine Street, Hatfield. I would actually like to table that, because I think there were several questions that came up. The three questions I had that I thought that should be addressed were: one, the final size, and the setbacks, so basically everything, kind of getting a final sketch, verifying what that is. We talked about the residential impact. It sounds like one of the residents is moving, so it'd be great just to get some feedback and make sure everyone's okay with it. And the issue that I really have is more about the height. I'm just trying to determine, is that height appropriate? So I personally like to come out and just take a look and see. So I don't know if other council members wanting to see it. Maybe we can arrange a time we can all get out and visit this property. But either way, I'd like to table this for the next meeting.
Right,
We have 45 days, right?
yeah, sorry, I want to make sure my mic was on. Yes, you have 45 days, and our next meeting is June 15th, right?
Mhm.
So we're well within that.
Yeah. Okay.
And I had also, I give you like a draft resolution, but I want to write into it what he's going to use the building for.
Right.
From what he said tonight, I want to write that into it anyway. So That's important.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm good with that. Any other questions or any other thoughts? Okay. All right, item F, motion to consider awarding the 2022 roadway resurfacing project to Bloomington Glen Contractors, Inc. in the amount of $135,992.
Make the motion.
I'll second.
I got a motion from Council Stevens, a second from Council Gerard. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None, that motion carries. All right, item number 9, motion to approve payment of the bills.
Nobody wants to pay the
Pay
bills?
bills?
I move to pay the bills.
Second.
I got a motion from Councilor Stevens, a second from Councilor Finnegan. Any questions on the bill? I know nothing stood out for me, except we paid a lot of persons. Yeah.
Some of it's reimbursable, isn't it?
Yeah, so you look at some of the stuff that comes out.
All right, no questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None, so motion carries. Executive session, are we having an executive session?
Yes, we do have an executive session.
Okay,
Maybe an electric question,
Yeah,
legal question.
Oh.
Yeah, exception,
okay,
litigation.
Right, I was just saying, Jamie, I disrupted her, my apologies, that we have to make sure that we are billing the funds that do reimburse us for legal fees. Like if they're incurred on behalf of the developer, we either have an escrow or we bill the developer from that. So, that's what we were talking about. Make sure that you get your reimbursement for that. So,
okay. All right, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we are adjourned.